Hey guys, Jimmy here. Before we dive into this week's podcast, we have some great discussions this week. I don't want you to miss out. I just want to let you know that I messed it up a little bit. All right, guys, I forgot to turn down the audio input gain on one of the microphones from a video I was doing, so the audio quality isn't up to our normal standards. It's completely fine to listen to. It's bearable. It's not going to be too distracting once you get used to it, but it's not up to our standards. So I take full responsibility. It's my fault, but just know going forward that it's not going to be an issue. I already thought of a solution to make sure it doesn't happen again. I apologize, and once again, you guys are awesome. So if you continue to listen to this, just know that you are the best, and we appreciate you so much. Again, the conversations we have in this episode are fantastic. I don't want you to miss out on them because we put a lot of research and time into making this show great for you. So enjoy the episode, and the audio quality will be back up to where it should be next week. Thanks again for your understanding. You are awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 204th episode of That One Movie Podcast, also
big
known
milestone
as TOMP 204, the weekly show in which we discuss movies, games, and TV shows, in addition to kind of whatever. I'm your host, Jimmy Youthie. This is their co-host, Holden Sutter.
Yep, that's me, Holden Sutter.
He's here. He's beautiful. That smooth, silky voice of his will bathe your ears.
Stay cool, as my shirt says.
Yes. Of course, feel free to skip to any part of the podcast you would like to listen to first, using the time codes in the description. Today, we've got a great show for you featuring our non-spoiler and spoiler reviews of The Flash. That's our headlining thing. But beforehand, hold it. We are going to talk about some news from the world of entertainment, including trailer reactions for Kraven the Hunter. Oh boy, the spum is back at it again. One Piece, Heart of Stone, Three Body Problem, Elio. Yep, Pixar's already turning the page from Elemental.
Yeah, probably for the best.
Additionally, we're going to talk about Linda Hamilton joining Stranger Things Season 5, the final season. Andy Muschietti directing Batman the Brave and the Bold. Mission Impossible may never end. And there will be some gaming news as well. That's right, TOG is returning for Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah.
Pandora, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and Starfield. Yes, once again, you can use the time codes in the description to skip ahead to any segment. With that being said, Holden.
Don't forget about TOMPeyes.
Oh yeah, TOMPeyes, our weekly segment.
Successful return.
Yes, finally it's back. And with that being said, Holden, let's dive right on in. That One Movie Podcast.
Tomp. All right, Jimmy, before we talk about The Flash, let's do the Toms.
Oh boy, let's do the Toms.
The Toms. Toms is the rapid fire segment in which we rate the news of the week in the world of entertainment on a scale of 3 mildly famous Toms: Brokaw, Bombadil, and Bergeron. Brokaw is the highest, Bombadil's the lowest, and Bergeron is somewhere in between. Jimmy, let's get to it.
All right, Holden, the headliner. Kraven the Hunter trailer. It's here. The Sony Pictures universe of Sony. What is it?
The Sony universe of Marvel character, or
I don't know.
So maybe it's just the Sony's Marvel universe. I don't know.
They keep changing the name.
Yeah.
Either way, Holden, I think this looks silly. Russell Crowe is in it. I was like, the voice came on. I'm like, that sounds like Russell Crowe, but I knew Russell Crowe wasn't Kraven the Hunter, so I was like, what's going on? And then he
sure
just
enough,
is in it.
I guess he's Kraven the Hunter's dad.
Yeah.
Cool.
Kraven the Hunter has daddy
Kraven
issues.
the Hunter Senior.
Yeah. There's a big CGI lion.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good.
No, it does not. Reminds me of that Idris Elba movie. What was that one called again?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember. I forgot that came out.
It was like Prey. Is that what it was called?
Something like that. I don't know.
No, Prey is the Predator.
Yeah, that's the Predator. I don't know.
Big lion.
Roar. No,
Beast.
it wasn't Roar.
Was it Beast or something?
Oh, I think it was Beast.
Something like that. Anyway, there's a big fight with the CGI lion that looks hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Yes.
Can't wait for people to edit that in with like the Revenant bear attacks.
Yeah, right.
But for some, I don't know what Kraven the Hunter's origin is in the comics, but the blood of the lion like dripping into his bloodstream, turning him into some sort of super animal being is hilarious.
Yeah, it's very silly. So at least original Kraven is just like a really good hunter. That's like his only thing. I don't know about like later on. I know Kraven became a little bit more complicated as time went on. I'm not super familiar with Kraven, but the lion's blood thing reminds me a lot of the Catwoman movie, which is not a good comparison in the slightest. Because in that movie, she's brought back to life by I think. It might be cat blood or something like that. It's very stupid.
Yeah,
so.
that sounds really intelligent.
Yeah.
I think it looks really silly, Holden, and not in a good way. I'm getting huge Morbius vibes from this one. Massive Morbius vibes.
Yeah.
And, I think this is going to be another failure for the spum. People are already mocking the trailer online. Let's just say of the Kraven the Hunter media things coming out, I'm much more looking forward to Spider-Man 2, PS5 game than
of course.
this movie, which we will inevitably review and watch regardless.
Yeah. For me, I put down my notes. I didn't hate the trailer. It doesn't look that great, but it is R-rated as opposed to the other Sony movies, which haven't been but desperately want to be. And so the R-rated violence in this trailer I thought was very funny. So if we get a lot of that, I think I might be sold on at least having a good time with it. Everything else does look super generic, and as you said, reminds me of Morbius.
Hopefully we can see the final climactic battle this time, unlike Morbius.
Yeah, it's not just a blur, and then it doesn't just end immediately after the climax or whatever.
The villain is the Rhino.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That looked and sounded bad. That was probably the worst part of the trailer for me. It was just like, he grows like a rhino skin or something. That looked really dumb. I don't know.
Because in more recent things, the rhino stuff has been more like a mech suit, right? Is that the way that's the way it is in Amazing Spider-Man?
That's
right?
how it is in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Is that how it is in the Insomniac game too? I'm trying to remember. I want to say it's a mech.
It's kind of like it's a mix of him just being a big guy in a suit, but I think it's also mechanical in that game. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, like the original Rhino is just a big guy in like a like a furry rhino suit. Like it's very silly. But I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm super into this weird way of going about it.
Yeah, I think in the Insomniac game, it is a mech because it's like Doc Ock is trying to help him get out of it or something. He promises. I think when you're.
But he's also just a big guy. It's not like it's a small guy in a mech suit. It's like a big man, just like a robo exoskeleton.
Unlike Amazing Spider-Man 2, where it's
Paul Giamatti.
Rudy Giuliani. That would be funny.
That would be funny.
I'm going Bombadil on this one. Unfortunately, October 6th, 2023 is when we're getting this, so too soon.
I think out of principle, I'll give it a Bombadil just because it is another one of these Sony movies that's going to be bad. But I do like the bear trap kills in the trailer, so
yeah,
that was pretty funny.
Reverse bear trap. Lots of wall running and punches too.
Yeah.
Climb off the wall.
The wall running punch. Bit in like that corridor just looked like a Morbius scene. I was like, it's just it looks like it's from that movie.
Holden, there's a manga, don't know how to pronounce it.
Manga, I think.
Adaptation coming to Netflix. Because what was the one that everybody hated?
Well, there were a couple Netflix has done now. There was the Cowboy Bebop one, and then there's also they did a Death Note movie like several years ago. People don't like that one.
I'm thinking of Demon Slayer that people like. That's not Netflix though.
Yeah, no.
So Netflix does not have a great reputation with these, but they are making an adaptation of One Piece, which I don't know anything about One Piece. I'm just completely out of my realm here. Very famous. People love this. It is beloved, cherished.
Yeah,
it seems
very
by a lot of people.
Has like over 1,000 episodes or something. Like the show does. It's insane how
That's
and
pretty
it's
impressive.
still going.
It's still going.
Yeah.
Wow. incredible.
No, it's wild. I mean, I think our friend of the podcast, Joe Lust, watches it.
Oh, Joe Lust. We'll have to have him on.
Yeah.
Joe Lust will get you on here as a married man to review this. I don't know. Again, I don't know anything about it. Looks like it's a fun little pirate-esque adventure, seafaring adventure. It's going to be a wait and see for me, obviously. I just don't know if it's my style of thing. I'm not a huge anime person anyway. Like, I watched Spirited Away, and I'm like, I don't know. I liked it. But that's like the greatest anime thing ever. So I don't know if it's necessary for me. But it seems like other people really enjoy it. I hope it's a faithful adaptation. People were really responsive to the cast and the overall aesthetic of it, so that's a good sign. Coming August 31st this year, so we'll see how that goes. Not sure how many episodes it is. Probably not like 2,000 or whatever.
No, probably not 2,000. No, we'll see. I get strong Cowboy Bebop Netflix series vibes from this trailer, which I didn't hate it as much as a lot of other people did, even though I love that original anime series for Cowboy Bebop. But the color palette of it is very weird. It's like very brown and undersaturated unless it's like the hair color. Like that's like the only colorful bits of the trailer. I thought it was very bizarre from that angle, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of meh on it. I probably won't watch it unless it's like incredible, just because I've never really watched One Piece, so I don't really have any, love for the series or anything.
I'm more of a bikini man myself than a One Piece. Wow. There's my joke.
There we go.
I'm going to go Bergeron.
Yeah, I'll give it a Bergeron too.
Sweet, Holden. Heart of Stone is a movie that Netflix is making.
Yeah.
It looks like Mission Impossible, but not as good. And it's got Gal Gadot in it.
Yes.
So there you go. Did you see Red Notice and you were like, man, I want more Gal Gadot movies on Netflix? Well, boy,
here you go. There's another one. Another movie that probably costs way too much money to make and will not earn enough for Netflix.
No, I wouldn't say so. But I just have zero interest in this. Looking at it,
Glad we talked about it.
I mean, the cinematography of it just looks so dull to me.
Yeah.
They have some sort of heart device that controls everything. It's the Mission Impossible, like, secret organization, James Bond Spectre sort of thing.
Yeah. Is the bad guy he looks like the guy from Army of the Dead.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't look it up either. I was like, I don't really care. August 11th, 2023. The one thing I wanted to talk about with this is Gal Gadot said she's not coming back as Wonder Woman ever again. So, which is disappointing because my favorite parts of the most recent DC movies has been when she shows up randomly and goes.
I don't know if I'd label that as my favorite part or the worst part.
I think it's the most hilarious part of the
funny.
two most recent DC movies that we've gotten to see.
That's true.
I hope. Look, I would love this to be good. The next Mission Impossible. I'm very skeptical, but it would be nice to have Gal Gadot actually be able to act in something that doesn't just have very generic dialogues. To see if she has some range before the Cleopatra movie that I actually do care about if it ever gets made.
Yeah, it's hard for me to really get excited about it because it just feels like a movie that Netflix makes a dozen of every year.
Yeah,
like
it looks like Gray Man, but maybe not even as interesting.
No, I wouldn't say so.
It doesn't have Ryan Gosling in it.
Yeah, or Chris Evans. Yeah.
But mainly Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see when it comes out. If if people like it, maybe I'll watch it, but we will not
actively seek out to review it on the podcast.
No promises for Heart of Stone for all the Heart of Stone heads out there.
Unsubscribe from the podcast. All right, hold on. Bergeron.
Bergeron for me.
One of the things I wanted to talk about that I think kind of flew under the radar a little bit is this 3-Body Problem show that's coming to Netflix. It is, if you were wondering, hey, what are those Game of Thrones guys doing? D&D. Didn't they sign a massive, like, 7-8 figure deal with Netflix? What have they been doing since then? Because literally nothing has come out from them since
they're not making their what was their Confederate show or whatever
for HBO. No, they're not. Instead, Holden, they are making this called The Three Body Problem. It's an adaptation of this book written by this Chinese engineer, I believe. It is a very, very popular book from 2008. And I have had this personally recommended to me several times. Emily and I started listening to the audiobook on our honeymoon. Unfortunately, the voice, the person reading it, I just could not bear their voice.
Really?
Like it was also very hard to listen to because there were a ton of Chinese names and I could not keep them all straight. Like when there's like an opening chapter and there's like 8 Chinese characters introduced, I'm like, as someone who is not, this is not my native language that I'm used to these names, I cannot keep these straight by just listening to them. I need to read them on the page.
Probably better to read it.
I've heard this series, it's a trilogy, is absolutely amazing. A lot of people, it's like their favorite books. So I will need to check it out at some point. But it looks pretty wild. I mean, wild sci-fi based on what's shown in the trailer.
I remember like they first announced they were doing this. I think we even talked about it on the podcast. I
think it was.
Was it 2020?
I believe so.
For some reason, I was thinking it was like pre Game of Thrones finale. We heard about it, and I was more positive about it then, or maybe, I don't know, maybe just the concept I was interested in. But I mean, the trailer is interesting. I mean, we don't really get a sense of the story really, but there's a lot of very interesting and sometimes creepy sci-fi visuals here that I'm very interested to see the context of in the show. Interesting cast as well, as you wrote down here. Got Benedict Wong, who plays Wong in the MCU.
Yep. And then we got a lot of Game of Thrones alums. John Bradley, Sam Tarly in Game of Thrones. Liam Cunningham, Sir Davos, the Onion Knight.
Yeah. My profile pic on Google.
Yeah. Jonathan Pryce, a.k.a. the High Sparrow, everybody's favorite in Game of Thrones. So also, those are just a few, and then a lot
Governor Swan in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Oh, I do not remember who that is. Yeah. Interestingly enough, there was actually a Chinese adaptation of this movie in 2016 that just never got released because apparently it wasn't very good, so they just canned it.
They Batgirled it.
They wrote it off for tax purposes in China. But I think it's interesting. It's certainly something I got just on my radar. And I really want to read the book before it comes out. And obviously, I mean, most of Game of Thrones is like some of the best television ever, and it's still my favorite show. So, you know, they obviously got burned out with that by the end. There's 3 books in this. Will they do 1 book a season?
That would make sense to me. I mean, I guess I don't know how long these books are, but
I think they're a few hundred pages. I don't think they're ridiculously long, but maybe I'm completely getting that incorrect. So don't listen to me. Anyway, January 2024 is when this is coming out. I'm going to give it a Brokaw.
Yeah, I mean, it looks interesting. Probably a Brokaw for me as well. We'll see. It's this one's also probably a wait and see for me, but you're right. I mean, they did make the good seasons of Game of Thrones as well as the bad, and they only made the bad because they were tired of it. So hopefully they don't tire of this and they'll actually make a good show.
And the whole series has been written. The whole book series is done.
Yeah.
So
we're not, they don't have to make up anything.
Yeah. So no worries there. Okay. We'll see how it goes. They do a good job at adapting books that have been written. All right. Last trailer that we're going to talk about is Elio, the new trailer from Pixar. Coming out March 1st, 2024. Basically, the premise is this kid is abducted by aliens because they think he is their leader, the leader of Earth. And he kind of embraces the role and kind of his little shenanigans and adventures from there. I think it's a cute, potentially fun story.
Seems cute, yeah.
I don't think it's something that looks completely revolutionary. That's going to make, man, Pixar is back. But it does look like another solid entry to their filmography.
Yeah, no, the concept on its own I think is interesting. Animation wise, it doesn't have like a particularly like new style or anything. It just kind of looks like a well animated Pixar movie. But yeah, I don't know. They're clearly releasing this to take the mind off of Elemental, probably, because this is so early, right? March 1st of next year.
Yeah,
it just feels like a long ways away.
Although they've teased things way before. Like they teased Elemental way before it came out.
That's true.
were showing those.
I remember way back when they did that with Wall-E. I remember seeing the teaser for Wall-E like years before it came out, I think. So
Wall-E.
Yeah.
You know, it was probably a year, but when we were little, it seemed really
That's
long.
true. That's probably right.
Which kind of brings us into our next story. I'll give it a Brokaw. Why not?
Yeah, looks cute. I mean, there's not really anything
better
that looks
than Elemental.
Yeah, it does.
Which, you know, I'm sure Elemental is perfectly fine. You know?
Yeah.
Will we see it at this point? Probably not. Sorry.
We'll probably.
You guys didn't either, so.
We'll probably just wait for Disney Plus for that one. I do want to. I'll probably watch it when it's on Disney Plus, but
I probably won't, if I'm going to be honest.
Fair enough.
Unless you absolutely love it for some reason.
I doubt it.
All right, so I give it a Brokaw, sure. Holden, speaking of time and perception of it, Disney announced a bunch of delays. Holden, go through all these release dates for some big upcoming Avatar, Marvel, and Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, so the big one for me was the Avatar delays, which Avatar is no stranger to delays, obviously. This is not that big of a surprise, but the fact how much they delayed it is pretty incredible. So Avatar 3 was originally supposed to come out December of next year. Now it's coming out December 2025. Fine. I was kind of expecting that, whatever. But then after that, Avatar 4 is not going to be coming out until December of 2029, and Avatar 5 is going to be coming out December of 2031. Like, holy crap. I wrote down here, I'm going to be almost 33 when that film, the final film comes out.
That means
I might have kids by that point.
Let's not get carried away. That is a long time from now, but it'll be here before we know it. And we'll be on like the 800th episode of our podcast.
My God.
Going, oh my gosh, we're still here. There's still more episodes of One Piece than there are episodes of this. That's a long time. Man, yeah, well, we'll see. I guess if 3's a banger, then they'll get away with it. If 3 flops, which I at this point I just don't imagine it, because people showed up for Way of Water. Like, that movie did just as well as anybody could have possibly hoped for.
Yeah.
So there's nothing suggesting to me that 3 won't be as good. I think it's almost good that these are spaced out this much, because kind of wipes away the diminishing returns aspect of it.
Yeah.
And you're introducing it to basically a new generation of 12-year-olds every single time.
Yeah.
Because their older siblings are going to have seen the second one in theaters, and they're going to be excited about seeing the new one. And the kid is like, ooh, now I can see PG-13 movies now. And then they see it, and then the third little sibling or whatever, or they grew up with it, they're going to be excited for the next one after that. The parents remember the first one, and I think it almost works out to the benefit of it, whereas I feel like the Disney Star Wars, it just came and went. The sequel trilogy
came out too fast.
And kids do not care about the Star Wars sequels. Like, they just don't. Like, I like 7 and 8 and don't like 9. Kids don't know anything about them. As a 6th grade teacher, they do not care about the sequel trilogy, which is pretty remarkable to me. They care way more about Avatar than I think Star Wars probably at this point.
Yeah. I mean,
which is crazy to think about.
Maybe I care about Avatar more than Star Wars at this point.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting. What are some of our Marvel and Star Wars ones here?
Yeah, so Marvel, probably the most interesting bit is that Deadpool 3 is actually moving up. We're going to be getting that as the next MCU film following the Marvels. It's going to be coming out May 3rd of next year. Captain America Brave New World's delayed slightly to July 24th of next year. Thunderbolts, December 20th of next year. And we're finally maybe getting Blade, February 14th of 2025. Fantastic Four, May 2nd, 2025. And then Avengers, The Kang Dynasty, May 1st, 2026. And Avengers Secret Wars, May 7th, 2027. Pretty sure both Avengers movies were both delayed by a full year. The others were kind of just a matter of months, I think. But
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I still think, like, the more time you have away from Endgame, the better.
Yeah, right.
At this point.
And that'll be, I mean, good 7 years, 8 years, whatever.
7 years, yeah, between them.
Yeah, and I saw this thing. So previously, when there was the announcement of like the next slate or whatever, there were some unannounced movies, and they were not included in this. So it's kind of unclear if those just aren't happening, at least at the times now, or maybe they were only providing updates on movies we knew that existed. Okay. So I don't know, but yeah, there was originally I think like a movie in between the King Dynasty and Secret Wars. We'll see, but yeah.
All right. Sure. There's going to be Marvel for the rest of all time.
Yeah.
So.
I'm honestly kind of excited about Deadpool 3 moving up. I feel like that's the only Marvel thing that's not a crap shoot right now. Like it's everything else, Blade is, just seems like it's in dire straits, and Deadpool 3 is just chugging along well. Yeah. So yeah.
Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds seem to be excited about it.
Yeah.
So like that. Finally, Holden, some Star Wars delays.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't remember when these originally
I don't know
if
I guess I don't know if they're delays. I wrote it down as delays, but maybe these are more just release date announcements. But the next Star Wars film is going to be coming out May 22nd, 2026.
Which they didn't technically in this announcement specify what it is, but didn't they say it was going to be the Rey movie next?
I don't know if they said. I don't know if people are just guessing based on.
I thought they said that. I thought we did a news story the other week where they said it, but it's weird that they would not just officially.
What's the name of that? Do they have a name for that one?
Have a name
okay, just the Rey movie. And then the other dates we have are December 18th, 2026, which is that same year, just later on. And then
terrible idea.
It didn't work before, won't work now.
It
probably
did not work for Solo. Although, look, here's the deal: if it's good, it'll do well. If it's a good Star Wars movie, word of mouth, it'll do well. If it's not good, it will bomb massively. Because the Star Wars IP is not going to save it.
No.
Solo proved that you can't just have the Star Wars IP. Unless you just make a really cheap movie, like a very small scale, you cannot do the galaxy trotting adventure.
One, and all these movies are releasing so close to each other. The last one is December 17th, 2027, that it's obviously they're not part of the same. It wouldn't be like a trilogy of films or anything. So these are all probably going to be either standalone or all part of their own separate series. So they're going to have to be good to draw people in too.
Yeah. The other weird thing on here is if you look at the Kang Dynasty, which comes out May 1st, 2026, the Star Wars movie, the first one coming back, is just 3 weeks after your Avengers film.
Yeah.
Endgame was ridiculous, that run. Why on earth would you have it within 3 months? I would say 3 months is the minimum.
I would not be surprised if the Star Wars movie is delayed.
It's December.
Yeah.
Like that movie's coming out in December. Sorry.
Yeah, that makes the most sense to me. I guess it didn't really matter before, but I mean, when you had Rise of Skywalker come out, that was in December versus Endgame in May or whatever. So, and I mean, granted, Rise of Skywalker sucked, so, but probably worked out better for both films.
All right, I'm going to go Bergeron overall for all these delays.
Yeah, Bergeron.
I think good idea for Avatar to be more spaced out. All right, Holden, enough of that. Linda Hamilton she came to Doom, which has this been an event before? I've never heard of TUDUM, To Doom.
Never heard of it.
It's a Netflix thing now. I don't know if Netflix was just there or if it's entirely a Netflix thing.
Well, Netflix has had like an event before. I remember like when the Cowboy Bebop series was coming out, they had a big deal about that at it, and they might have had one last year too with some stuff. But yeah, they've had like their own Comic-Con-ish style event before.
Well, that's what this was.
Okay.
And they called it To Doom.
To Doom.
TUDUM. I don't know if it stands for something, but fill us in the comments. All right. Linda Hamilton's joined the cast of season 5 of Game of Thrones, of Stranger Things, which is going to be the final season as well. Don't know what her role is or anything like that. Linda Hamilton obviously is most well known for playing Sarah Connor in the Terminator franchise and being James Cameron's ex-wife.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, they've cast a lot of 80s actors in this series before, so Linda Hamilton, I think, would just fit right in. And
she's cool. She's great.
She is great.
She's buff.
Yeah,
She'll do a good job. She'll beat some people. Take this, Demogorgon.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. Russians. I mean, I guess like The other example I think of is was when like Cary Elwes was in like season 3 or whatever.
I love that.
Yeah, and he was playing a completely different character than his like iconic 80s role. So it'd be kind of funny if Linda Hamilton's playing completely against type here too.
Maybe.
So
Although I think it'd be cool to just see her kick some butt.
that would be good. Yeah.
I'm gonna kick your butt. Little Mrs. Puffer. Yeah, I'll go Brokaw.
Yeah, I'll give it a Brokaw as well.
Hold on. Andy Muschietti. However you say it.
Yeah, Muschietti, I think.
Andy Muschietti will direct Batman, the Brave and the Bold. This is going to introduce Batman into James Gunn's DCU. This will be our first look at him. So very important film, as Batman is one of the top 2 members, I would say.
Yeah,
of the Justice League. He obviously directed the 2 It movies, and The Flash, which we'll reviewing
talk about
today.
a little bit.
So he's got a track record, and this movie will introduce Damian Wayne, who is Batman's son. I think normally with Talia al Ghul, who's Ra's al Ghul's daughter. So it'll be interesting to see if she's in the story at all. If will Ra's or Raz, however you say it, al Ghul.
I say Ra's, but
that's how they say in the Arkham games, I think. But then Batman Begins, they say Ross. So I'm torn because I
feel like Batman Begins would probably just be wrong. I think I've heard Ra's more often.
Christopher Nolan is never wrong. I changed it to Ra's al Ghul because the Egyptian god of the sun inspired
That could just be Liam Neeson just not knowing how to say his own name. Not knowing.
Spoilers for Batman Begins.
Oh, wow. That nearly 20-year-old movie.
That's crazy. That movie is almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
Anywho, Holden, thoughts on this?
I mean, I guess without giving away too much of my thoughts of The Flash, I'm probably mixed on it. I mean, Chapter 1 was good. You said it wasn't as good revisiting after the second one, right?
Wasn't? I don't know. I think that movie is well directed, though.
Yeah.
And Chapter 2, I just think is I don't know if that movie's just poorly directed or if it's just a complete train wreck. It's still fun.
It's
Chapter
not the
2
worst.
is still fun.
I think we reviewed it on the podcast way back when.
Oh, we definitely did.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm mixed. I don't know his other work aside from those 3 movies. I assume he probably did some indie horror stuff before it, and that's how he was picked up for that. But I'm mixed. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about it.
You can't mess with Batman. I mean, think about the people we've had previously do Batman: Christopher Nolan, Matt Reeves, Joel Schumacher. I mean, these are some top tier names we're talking about. Jokes aside, I mean, it wasn't his film. Miss with Batman.
Yeah,
so it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see Batman as a dad. Something we haven't seen really.
That is a new dynamic, I guess.
You have a little bit of it, I guess, with Batman and Robin.
Yeah, sort of.
Freeze in hell, Batman. But I don't think we know who the villain or anything is going to be. Really early talks. James Gunn, at least publicly, said he really liked The Flash, but public facing. This maybe confirms it because, I mean, put your money where your mouth is. I think James Gunn is calling the shots and Andy Muschietti's on here, unless this was part of some sort of negotiation or something.
Maybe.
I don't know. I would like to think that James Gunn has a real belief in Andy Muschietti. And I think, like I said, Chapter 1, I think is really well directed. So if he has a good script, James Gunn already knows the story. It's not like this. He's talked about the story and what he likes about it. So it seems like they have a clear idea for the story. If they can write a good script, I think Andy Muschietti is a capable director who can execute that vision. It probably won't have the same sort of dark tones that we have come to expect from a Batman movie, from Matt Reeves, from Christopher Nolan, even to some extent Tim Burton. So
I feel like that makes sense, though. I mean, especially if we're having the Robert Pattinson Batman movies running alongside that, you want it to distinguish itself from that. So I think that's smart to if they do go in kind of a lighter tone. And we've gotten plenty of dark Batman movies before, so I think that's, try something new. Maybe the Snyder fanboys will hate it, but is what it is.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I will go Bergeron.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a Bergeron as well.
Speaking of directors, Holden, Mission Impossible director of 5, 6, 7, Part 1 and 7, Part 2, Ralph McQuarrie told The Hollywood Reporter that Mission Impossible will end, quote, when the audience is no longer entertained. I don't know about you, but I was under the impression that Part 2 of Dead Reckoning was going to be the last one.
I'm pretty sure they said it was the last one.
So
I'm pretty sure that's not just us. This isn't a Mandela effect situation here. So I think we're good. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much longer they can keep doing it with Tom Cruise, though, right?
He's 60, right? Tom
yeah, I think he is 60.
Cruise.
Age.
I know he's 5'7".
60. There he is.
60 years old.
Yeah,
he's gonna be 61 on July 3rd.
So yeah, by the time this new movie comes out, I mean, granted, obviously you could keep making Mission Impossible movies without Tom Cruise. I guess you could pass the mantle on. It's not like Ethan Hunt is like that iconic of a character, but at the same time, Tom Cruise himself is kind of who drives these, and his recklessness is kind of what keeps people coming back. So I don't know.
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible. I think that could actually work.
That could
Tom
work.
Holland, Mission Impossible. He wants to do something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a better fit for him than Uncharted is, honestly.
Oh,
and
certainly.
Tom Holland, I think, would actually do stuff. And try stuff and be crazy.
Yeah, I could see that. That'd be fun. But I don't know. I mean, I was kind of happy with the idea that it was ending after this, part 2 or whatever, because it gives it a definitive end. But now it's pulling a Fast and Furious, like, oh, well, maybe we're not actually going to end it here.
So that was the question I have here in my notes, Holden. Which franchise is going to end first? Mission Impossible or Fast and the Furious?
I don't know, because I could see both ending very soon, but at the same time, I would think maybe Fast and Furious would go on longer, personally.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, when is Fast 11 supposed to come out?
Come out next year, I think, right?
No. They were going to make
that's right.
The Hobbs movie.
That's
Shaw
right.
movie.
2 years from now. It's like May of 2025.
Which one is
Hobbs, yeah.
Calvin and Hobbs. That would be funny. Calvin and Hobbs.
That'd be good.
The Rock, this little kid.
The Rock is the tiger. He's Hobbs.
That would be pretty funny. I'm gonna say Mission. No, well, the thing is, they take forever to make Mission Impossible movies.
It's true.
They can crank out a Fast and Furious movie. I'm gonna say they go back on their word and they're gonna end with Dead Reckoning Part 2.
I could see that. Yeah,
and I think that's gonna end first. So I'm gonna say Mission Impossible, and let's say the 5 UN bill is on the line. So you have Fast and Furious, I have Mission Impossible. We'll try to remember.
Yeah.
I will go Bergeron, I guess.
Yeah, I'll give it a Bergeron as well.
Tom Cruise is going to kill himself.
He will.
I think it's better. We will end Mission Impossible when Tom Cruise's life ends.
For a stunt. We'll get the movie released and we'll actually see Tom Cruise die.
Like the shot in Fallout. That was the name of the last one, right?
Yeah, Fallout.
Gosh, I need to rewatch
that. Was a while ago.
When he breaks his ankle when they kept filming, it's like, well, this is the shot where Tom Cruise died.
We're gonna keep it in here.
Tom Cruise actually died in this shot.
That'd be pretty funny.
Ethan, we have the meats.
And then they have to deep fake him the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Over who would they deep fake him over?
I don't know who looks enough. Tom Cruise has a pretty unique face.
I don't know. There's some guy on like TikTok or something who does a Tom Cruise deepfake thing
pretty
convincingly. I don't want to have TikTok. I just saw it on a 60 Minutes thing about
okay,
deepfakes.
Jimmy. Okay.
All right. Hold on. Well, you got this next. I didn't mean to hit you.
You're okay.
Physical abuse is not okay.
Next bit of news. So last week we had talked about the Zelda movie was being made by Illumination. Apparently that's just not true, or at least Illumination is just not saying it is happening yet. That's their stance. So the Illumination CEO, Chris Meledandri, addressed it in an interview with The Wrap. He said, I don't know where that came from. I mean, I can understand how people would surmise all sorts of things because obviously we've had a great experience working together. My relationship with Nintendo now includes being on their board of directors, so I understand how people can surmise these things. But in terms of the specifics, that was just something that I've been hearing lots of rumors. This is just about what's next between Nintendo and Illumination.
I like his humble brag. Like, oh, it's working. I'm
on the board of directors.
I am on the board of directors for Nintendo now.
Like,
so.
I should know what's happening.
I mean, I'm pretty connected here. I'm pretty big deal. Whatever. I think this is an inevitability regardless. So
somehow it's going to happen. I mean, if a different company does it, I'm probably more okay with that. But I'll give it a Bergeron overall. And then the other bit I added in here was the Knuckles series. Knuckles, the Echidna, the Sonic characters, getting a Paramount Plus series. We've talked about it before, but Cary Elwes and Christopher Lloyd have both joined the cast among some others, but those were the two most notable names I noticed.
Nice.
What do you think?
Two actors who I love in two of my favorite movies of all time, Back to the Future and Saw. So I will not watch this series regardless.
What if it's great?
If it's great, I still need Ryan Gosling in there.
Okay.
As a live action person. Is this all animated, I'm guessing?
I don't know. I was under the impression it was going to be like the Sonic movies.
Okay.
So
I want live action Ryan Gosling interacting with Knuckles, Idris Elba, right?
Yeah, it's Idris Elba. That'd be good.
There we go. Brokaw.
Yeah, I'll give it a Brokaw too.
Awesome. I have some rapid fire tidbits, actual rapid fire news that we don't need to rank, Holden.
Okay.
These are things that I either thought just worth mentioning or I just thought were interesting. Really quick, no more than 30 seconds in each. Squid Game 2 cast reveal. So they're making a second season of Squid Game. There are some characters returning that probably should be dead. I thought that was funny. And there was a bunch of like Korean actors and actresses. No, just actors, because there was no actress reveals who I am not familiar with, unfortunately, yet. There was a BTS look at Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder's Star Wars thing that he's making. Super ambitious. Like, people are like, this is crazy, huge thing. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that is good. Coming to Netflix in December. I thought this was interesting. Hollywood Reporter did a big interview with Tom Holland. They had a big sit down and said, Tom Holland, how are you doing? And during that sit down, he revealed that he, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield have a group chat called the Spider Boys.
I saw that. Why isn't it the Spider Men?
Because Spider Boys is more like, oh man, we're the boys, you know.
I guess that's true. That's true.
The song isn't the men are back in town, the men are back in town.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
The Spider Boys, Holden. Audrey Plaza. Is it
Aubrey Plaza?
Aubrey. I was like, that's not right. Aubrey Plaza and Michael Cera almost got married 10 years ago as a joke, so they could immediately get divorced and call each other their ex-spouses.
Yeah, I knew something about that. They were like, I think they dated while Scott Pilgrim was being filmed or something. So,
which is
funny,
pretty funny. Nice. Hans Zimmer proposed to his girlfriend during a live performance in London. Apparently, she said yes.
Good for him.
Nice for Hans Zimmer. Carrie Fisher has a movie called Wonderwell coming out this year, which seems interesting, but then you realize that, oh my gosh, Carrie Fisher died 7 years ago already.
7 years ago?
7 years ago. Isn't that crazy to believe?
Yeah,
I mean, more like 6.5.
Yeah, because it was right. It was like right when Last Jedi released, right?
No, it was. Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, right.
No.
Wasn't it that same month?
Yeah, it's not. It was.
Was it a year after that?
I want to say Last Jedi was 2017 and she died 2016.
Oh, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was a year after.
I don't remember.
I think so.
But that's crazy.
I believe she died 2016 in like December. So crazy to think about. So there you go. On to TOG. Oh my gosh. I told you this episode was going to be long. Hold on. First up, we got Star Wars Outlaws. There was a Ubisoft Direct and a bunch of stuff. So gameplay, walk you through it, Holden. This is it's got a lot of elements from a lot of different games kind of incorporated into one big Star Wars open world thing. So you got you have that sequence where the little pet thing steals something for you and then you got to sneak out of this base.
Yeah.
And there's some stealth stuff. You have that cute little pet to distract, and that's
Go press
nice.
a button.
Go press a button, and I'll go on this thing, and nobody will notice. But then it turns out to be like a third-person shooter sort of thing. Gave me Uncharted vibes from that.
Yeah, I got big Uncharted from this trailer, just in general.
Overall,
yeah.
But she has like weapon mods on her pistol. That reminded me a little bit of Control. I'm trying to think. There's probably another game like that. Is it Guardians of the Galaxy? Probably has a little bit. Of that too, right?
Guardians.
Again, I like the cute little pet. There's an open world. Seems like there's hub areas on the planets, and you can travel between the multiple planets.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a wanted system, kind of GTA-esque. So more higher wanted level, more people are after you. There's a speeder bike chase in that, very Uncharted feeling, that speeder bike chase.
Yeah.
Obviously there's going to be at least some interaction with vehicles.
It looked like that whole environment just looked like the Madagascar bit from Uncharted 4. I was like, they're just doing the chase in that.
Yeah, but not as impressive.
Not as cool.
Space battles. You have your own ship, obviously, so I'm imagining there's some customization with that. There's some RPG elements as well. There's a bit in the trailer where she has the opportunity to bribe or not bribe the officer. I'm guessing that's pretty limited.
Oh, yeah. There's no way you can. I feel like it's a Ubisoft game. I feel like it's not going to go super in depth with that.
I would say probably to a lesser extent than something like The Witcher 3, where some of your decisions actually impacted communities and stuff. Even in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, there was a little bit of that, but probably to a lesser extent than both of those.
Well, and
games.
it looked like there was you can earn favor with factions and stuff too. Because at one point when she was escaping, it said like it came up on the side and was like Pike Syndicate favor down or something like that. I don't know.
The fish guys from Book of Boba Fett and other things.
Oh, maybe I don't remember that.
The Pike Syndicate?
No,
you don't remember the Book of Boba Fett?
Not at all. I remember that. I remember the bike chase in that.
They were the Spice Runners.
Oh, okay.
They were like,
okay,
you're messing up our spice trade in this area, Boba Fett. We don't like you, so we're gonna have the people kill you.
Okay, I remember that now.
And then Mulan goes and murders them all. Graphics wise, there seems to be ray tracing in it, global illumination, so that's cool. More than likely to be limited to 30 frames per second on release.
Not surprised.
Based on the CPU kind of take effects on this. We'll see. Hopefully there's some sort of performance mode. Some of the developers have been doing the 40 frames per second thing if you have a 120 hertz display, which is great with VRR. So I'd love to see that option. Unless you're me and you have to go through your PSVR 1 thing and it doesn't let you do any of that, which is really annoying. Looks like good particle effects. Kind of reminded me of like the OG remake Star Wars Battlefront from 2015, which had good particle effects and explosions and all that.
Sure.
High quality assets. I think the hair looks weird, specifically on the main character when she moves around.
I didn't really notice, I guess.
A little wonky to me.
Sure.
When flying off a planet, you fly through the clouds, but it's not like a seamless like surface to space thing. Like literally, you're doing that. It's like more like a loading screen to kind of hide the fact that it's loading in this space environment that you go to, which I'm fine with. I don't think it's a big deal for me. Other notes about it. I have never seen a gameplay trailer on an ultra wide aspect ratio like this.
That was weird. I noticed that. I was watching it on my phone.
That's probably nice for your phone then.
Yeah.
It was a little filled up the screen a little bit more.
Sorry.
ND5 command. There you have a command battle droid friend named ND5, which is interesting. The music definitely fits with the Star Wars vibe. I believe based on the little teaser thing that it takes place, the teaser that they showed the day before they showed this at the Xbox thing, I think, that this is going to take place between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, it does.
And the game is supposedly coming in 2024, so we'll see.
Overall, I was kind of underwhelmed by this, if I'm being honest. I thought it looked very just fine. I didn't mention it when you brought it up briefly, but that space combat just looks like the most generic thing I've ever seen. It does not look that fun at all. I mean, we didn't get much of it, I guess, and it could be better, but it just looks like hold R2 to shoot and just destroy a ship, I guess. Yeah. Do a barrel roll to evade or whatever.
And then you can just escape to hyperspace.
Yeah.
I like the fact that when you dodged, you had to like it didn't load your hyperspace, but it didn't seem to reset either. I feel like it should reset. Otherwise,
yeah, I don't know. And the ground stuff, I'm like, yep, this looks like an open world Ubisoft game. I was actually
it looks better than that, though. I mean, I think that you're selling it a little short. It's not as. I think it's a little bit more polished than some of the other open world Ubisoft
I'm sure.
games.
I'm sure
that's
it is.
coming from someone who enjoyed Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Okay, but I think this is a little bit more detailed and thought out, and more of that than like Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah, I mean, with like the wanted system, I mean, it's like a Ubisoft game mixed with GTA is kind of what I get here personally.
With Uncharted.
Yeah, mixed with Uncharted,
mixed with Star Wars.
of course, that's a big part. Yeah, I don't know. It looks all right. I wasn't particularly impressed with any aspect of it. It wasn't, I mean, like the GTA aspects were probably like the most unique thing, but I'm not like a big GTA person. So it's not like, that's not something that's particularly pulling me towards it. I don't know. This is probably overall a Bergeron for me.
I'm there too. Look, a game that I was really eagerly awaiting and wanted to have been made for 10 years was Hogwarts Legacy, and I still haven't even played that. So I'm not going to play this on day one, and people like Hogwarts Legacy. So it's like, if that wasn't enough to give me a game on day one, there's just so many good games to play right now that this has to be amazing. I want to play Jedi Survivor really badly, and I haven't even gotten around to that. And games are $70 now. So it's like, I just am not going to be getting this day one.
Yeah.
And I won't be getting it soon after that unless it's amazing. And if it's not amazing, I probably won't ever end up playing it, which is kind of the harsh reality of games nowadays, is the games have gotten so big.
It's hard to commit too much time when there's so many good games coming out.
So I'm at a Bergeron 2, and kind of competing with this is... I guess it's coming out a little sooner, I believe, is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which I don't know if you ended up seeing the gameplay trailer for this.
I didn't. I just kind of read some stuff, and I mean, the main thing I read was that it's basically Far Cry, which I see you wrote down here. But yeah, I guess if you know more.
So it's a first-person game. You're a Na'vi that was abducted by humans, trained to fight with the humans, but then there was this big battle, and you ended up in a coma, but you were taken by the Na'vi, and you wake up like 15 years later without any knowledge of your culture and that. So they kind of teach you all this stuff. And it's called Frontiers of Pandora. So there are different frontiers. I believe there's at least 3. There's kind of the main one from the first movie where you like get to fly the Ikran, the dragon-like thing, the pterodactyl thing that you want to do. So you can name that, feed it, customize how it looks.
Cool.
Upgrade it, all that stuff. Then there's a plains area with some rock formations and more like, horse-like animals and stuff you'd expect like that. And then I guess like these really big animals. And then there's like this forest place. It doesn't look like there's the Way of Water area at all.
Sure.
Or it's not like the fire area that we hear about in the third movie. So
that makes sense.
Makes sense that they wouldn't want to step on that. I'm guessing they were developing this game before the second one was really probably in the can, so they didn't know they probably didn't want to step on anything there to make sure they weren't making any inconsistencies. But like I said, it's basically Far Cry. You go in free bases. The bases are reclaimed by nature over time, so the world actually dynamically changes.
Cool.
Apparently that helps you get different upgrades. Looks like there's going to be lots of crafting, for better or worse, depending how you feel about that. Some of the weapons, you obviously get the longbow. You get like a staff sling to set up traps. It looked like Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West in that regard. But you also get the human stuff because you were trained with the humans, so you can take assault rifles, RPGs, that sort of thing. And then you can play the campaign in single player or online 2-player co-op, Holden. So there we go.
Nice. We'll get on it.
The graphics look kind of like the first movie, but a little worse. Like if you just downgraded the resolution and some of like the subsurface scattering and some of the lighting of the first one that kind of polishes up.
Sure.
But you could probably put some of the scenes next to the first one and blend them together, and it would be pretty seamless depending on what you're looking at. So again, this game would have blown my mind in 2011.
Yeah.
Or even like 2015. Like this would have been a must play. And at this point, there's so many good open world games out there to play to sink your time into. I don't know if I care enough about the Avatar franchise to play this one. Again, unless it's absolutely amazing.
See, for me, the concept sounds really fun. So we'll see. I mean, I still need to watch this gameplay trailer. We'll wait and see kind of what the general consensus is. But I like Avatar a lot. I think like the world of Avatar could lend itself to a video game really well. So this is kind of a kind of cool thing.
That was the thing, is I like the world. I don't mind the fact that it's Far Cry free bases and stuff. I don't inherently dislike that. I just don't think the gameplay did anything for me. Like flying the Ikran sounds really cool, but then you watch it in the trailer and you're like, it looks slow. Kind of like in Gotham Knights when they were like speeding through the city and it's just like going 20 miles per hour.
Yeah,
and it's got like the wind thing going. Kind of looked like that, if I'm going to be honest. Which maybe that's a technical limitation or something, but I don't know, especially with like Starfield coming out. I mean, like I don't know if people are going to be able to justify playing this one unless you're a big fan of it. But again, I would love to be wrong. I would love for it to be amazing. And obviously this is going to be cross-platform, so that would be good.
Cool.
I'll go Bergeron.
Yeah, I'll go Bergeron too.
Quickly, Assassin's Creed Mirage. They're definitely leaning into more traditional Assassin's Creed with like it's more about climbing the roofs and just going and killing people rather than the sponges and the upgrade system. Again, that's what it looks like. We'll see. I don't.
It's set in Baghdad?
It's set in Baghdad during the 9th century, which is interesting time. It's pretty cool looking. But I don't know if there's really anything particularly... Granted, I don't know a ton about Baghdad's history in the 9th century, but nothing particularly attention-grabbing for me. In this one, I don't really have a huge affinity for those original games. Like, I never really played any of the original ones.
Same.
I remember watching my brother play the original one on the Xbox 360 and thinking it was cool, but I'll probably skip this one again unless it's absolutely amazing, which I have my doubts.
Yeah, I'm definitely skipping this one because I haven't played any. So.
All right. Last thing, finally, on Tom's this week is Starfield. Holden, did you watch any of this stuff or look into any of
I
this?
only saw one small clip that absolutely does not give me any idea of what this game is. So
Okay, so I watched the entire 45-minute or whatever Starfield direct.
God.
And it was very impressive. I have to say, I'm very bummed that this is an Xbox exclusive. Like I said, I'm very wary with open world games at this point since they are so time consuming. They have to be really good, and this one I'm like, ooh, that looks like it could be really good. It's incredibly ambitious. So gameplay wise, the character customization is just insane. There's a million things they can do. Looks like they made an effort to make it look intuitive by combining things using sliders and stuff. We'll see how that goes. Ship customization is equally as extensive. Literally, you can do whatever you want. And I mean, whatever you want. There was this one lady who's like, I like to make my ships look like animals or something. And like she made a platypus looking thing or like this huge like transformer robot looking thing.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can just make it a massive spaceship with a huge crew. You can make it a tiny little thing. You can essentially be whoever you want in this game.
Okay.
One of the things I thought was interesting, kind of like I think Cyberpunk 2077 tried to do this. You get to choose different character traits at the beginning, and like a million, of course, in this. And you can acquire more as you go, or you can focus on like increasing that one trait over, like they do in Skyrim.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least the bones are from Skyrim and Fallout.
Yeah, because in Skyrim, right, you kind of put some points into some places at the beginning.
There's in Fallout, I can't remember what the system's called, but it's kind of similar in both, where you kind of almost like D&D style, you put your certain points into certain categories, and that kind of affects you throughout the game. But then there's other things you can put points in throughout the game as you level up and stuff.
So like that, only I think a little bit more intuitive or accessible when you're starting out. Makes a little bit more sense. There are over 1,000 different planets, and apparently they're like procedurally generated. Most of them, I think, are procedurally generated, but they have from what I understand, they have like this collection of like key spots that you're not going to go to a planet that just is not going to have anything. Like they have this bank of procedural assets where it's like, this is going to be a key area in this place with this storyline, and it will randomly add some planet for someone and another planet for someone else. I don't love that personally.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to make it very generic.
That, or you might want to have this certain quest line that you just can't find. It's not like you can just go online and be like, hey, what are some great quests in Starfield that I don't know about? And it's not like, oh, go to this planet and this is this and do this and talk to this NPC and you'll start this quest. Maybe I was reading into that incorrectly, but from the sake of wanting to, maybe focus on certain things I want to do rather than just completely explore. I thought that was kind of a bummer, but I don't know how else you would have such a huge game.
Yeah, I'm mixed on. I mean, granted, like I said, I haven't watched it, but I don't know. Do you need that many planets? Like, really? Like, it's cool. Like, but just make like 10, 20 cool planets.
That's where I'm kind of at. Like, oh, look, another rock.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like the No Man's Sky thing when that was first announced. And I know that game has improved over time, but it was like, oh, there's like 2 billion planets you can go to, and they're procedurally generated. But then you play the game, and they're all like the same. So like, I mean, I'm obviously it's fewer planets in this, and I'm sure they'll be more detailed. But I still can't imagine 1,000 different planets are going to be that interesting.
Yeah. Some of the key areas, New Atlantis is kind of the capital city, cyberpunk looking place. There's like this Las Vegas-esque city that I thought was really cool. There was like this futuristic Wild West space town that was really cool looking. They have like these super upper class, high class space cruisers where they're having like fundraisers and stuff that you can go just stumble upon. They have pirate ships, obviously spaceships and stuff. But like I said, key locations on each planet. So even if you go to some other place, there's going to be something to do. And they have a bank of like certain creatures and stuff. There's a bajillion different types of guns as well. You can customize everything about those. You can have a jetpack, which I think would be really nice.
Yeah.
I think that's
especially
something
for
you would want
a space game like that.
Have. Like I said, you can assemble your own crew, so you can literally like have the Starship Enterprise and do that, or you could just be off on your own and whatever. They have like the annoying guy from Elder Scrolls that like there's like an annoying fan NPC. They basically put that same NPC.
Oh yeah, that was the bit I saw from Oblivion, I believe,
which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Lots of environmental storytelling is what they're promising. Graphics wise, I think the lighting is very impressive. The character models are a little lacking, but again, it's massive. I think they said they like scanned a bajillion people or whatever. So every
literally a bajillion.
Yeah, like a bajillion, literally. But the big story here was it's locked at 30 frames per second on the Xbox consoles because this is an Xbox exclusive because it is a CPU thing, not a graphics thing. So
but you'll be able to play it on PC.
Yeah, if you really want that stuff, play it on PC. One thing I was going to say is the reason why it's locked at that is a CPU thing. A threshold. So graphics, so it's like, oh, why don't they just turn down the resolution? Well, turning down the resolution frees up more GPU space, where CPU kind of takes into effect like physics-based things. So like these planets and these systems and all that running and customizing spaceships and different characters and crowds and that sort of thing, that puts a lot of stress on the CPU. and having huge open worlds is a CPU constraint, whereas like just pushing out a high resolution, that's GPU related.
Yeah,
stuff. So that's the reason why it's like that. So there you go. Starfield. I think this legitimately looks really cool.
What how big do you think this game is going to be storage wise?
That's a great question. 200 gigabytes?
Oh my god, dude. I hope not. I mean, probably not going to play because I don't have an Xbox, but that's still, I feel bad for all those that do.
This, if it is amazing, this may get me to get an Xbox.
See, I feel like the only way I would play it is if I end up getting a PC at some point. But I don't think I can be bothered to buy an Xbox, even if this is amazing. Like one game for an Xbox. But
then you can finally play Halo Infinite.
Oh yeah, finally.
Dying to play. I don't know. We'll see. It's definitely a wait and see. They will definitely have Xboxes bundled with this game at some point.
Probably, yeah.
Although, is it going to be on Games Pass or whatever?
I mean, a lot of their games are day one Game Pass. So. I wouldn't be surprised, but
which would be crazy. But this is the first Xbox exclusive in a long time that I'm like,
yeah, right. I mean, it's not like they have a ton of other ones. You weren't excited for Redfall, Jimmy?
That was an Xbox exclusive?
Yeah, I think so. Probably on PC as well, but that's Bethesda's the parent company. Yeah, I mean, I've been interested in playing the new Gears of War games because I like that original trilogy, and apparently the new ones are still good. But aside from those, just Xbox hasn't been doing it for me. But it sounds cool.
We'll see. I'm going to give it a Brokaw just because I think it looks incredible. I wish I was like 15. When this game was coming out, because then I maybe could have played it. But it does seem like you could just play this game for the rest of your life.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll give it a Brokaw since it sounds cool, but I will probably not play it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Toms. It is time for your most anticipated segment of the entire podcast. That's right, TOMPeyes is back. This is our weekly review of Popeyes, because we always go to Popeyes before we go to the
weekly
movie
review that we did 3 weeks ago and have not done since.
But we normally go there every week.
Yeah, we do.
If you missed it on the other podcast, whenever I get into my car around 5 to 7 p.m. on a Thursday evening, my car assumes that I'm going to Popeyes and pulls up the GPS information for how long it will take me to get there, which is where I'm at in my life right now. So the great thing about Popeyes is it is a unique experience every time.
It really
Popeyes
is.
giveth and Popeyes taketh away. This time, I was a little extra hungry because I hadn't really eaten that day, and we went around like 5:30 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I normally get the 4-piece chicken combo.
Yeah.
Classic or spicy, whatever they have, because I'm not going to wait 20 minutes. All dark meat, preferably. So I got the 6-piece ghost pepper wings in addition. And boy, that just destroyed the cash register for whatever reason. It did not want me to add the 6-piece ghost pepper wing. So the first cashier was like, I don't know what to do. And then this other guy came over and he was starting to, he took like 3 minutes to eventually go, you know what? I'm just going to start this order over. Did that. And then while he was doing that, this other lady came over and she's like, oh, I got this. You go handle the drive-thru or whatever. And then she started doing it. Finally got it. I think they asked me if I wanted to stay or to go at least 4 times.
Yeah. Yeah, the lady behind the counter seemed like she might not all be there. Maybe a little devil's lettuce action. That was my theory.
So they finally got it figured out after 5 minutes. Luckily, Holden was the only person behind me, I think. So that was fine. When I got my meal, it inexplicably had 5 ranches with it.
So much dipping sauce.
2 normal ranches and 3 blackened ranches. They never asked me what dipping sauce I wanted. I love ranch, so I was happy about it. Holden also received 2 random additional ranches with his meal. So they were just trying to get rid of ranch, I guess.
Yeah, just throwing it out there.
Delicious, by the way. I the ghost pepper wings were good.
Nice. I might have to try those next time. My order wasn't too as chaotic as Jimmy's because I didn't get the 6-piece ghost pepper wings. I got my normal 5-piece tender combo, which I usually get spicy if they have it. And similarly, the lady behind the counter asked what side I wanted several times. So I just wanted fries. So it wasn't that complicated. But I ended up with 6 tenders, so it ended up pretty good. I got those 2 extra ranch, and I think I also got an extra barbecue too. So I got a lot of sauce as well.
There we go. If you want a thrill, go to your local Popeyes.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is TOMPeyes for this week. Stay tuned next week for the next rendition of TOMPeyes. All right, Holden, let's dive into our non-spoiler review of The Flash.
All right, non-spoilers for The Flash.
Don't worry, we will not give away anything about this movie that you already know. Everything that happens because the trailer gave away everything.
The trailer gave away everything. The director has just been openly discussing it in interviews. Any number of ways that you could have come across the spoilers for this movie. We won't be one of those places.
No, we will not, Holden. Anything that's not in the synopsis, we will not spoil. All right, here we go. The synopsis for The Flash. Worlds collide when The Flash uses his superpowers to travel back in time to change the events of the past. However, when his attempt to save his family inadvertently alters the future, he becomes trapped in a reality in which General Zod, remember him? He has returned, threatening annihilation. With no other superheroes to turn to, The Flash looks to coax a very different Batman out of retirement and rescue an imprisoned Kryptonian, albeit not the one he's looking for. Superman's the one he's looking for.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. So this it's been in development for quite a long time. I think it's been in development since it's one of those movies that's been going since longer than the DCU or whatever. But this it's been delayed so many times.
It came out. Directors. I did not think we would ever review this movie. I did not think this movie would exist.
It's been delayed so many times.
Props to them for making this movie exist.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I did not really like this movie. And I've liked it less the more I've sat on it. I came out thinking it's fine. I think maybe it was because my expectations were surpassed. My very incredibly low expectations were surpassed. But I do not like this movie.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. I don't think it's the worst DC film.
No.
I think for me, it's between. It's better than Joss Whedon's Justice League.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I don't know. I've only seen all these movies once. Okay, so give me and a lot of them came out a while ago.
Is it better than 1984 Wonder Woman?
1980. Oh, Wonder Woman 19.
Yeah,
it's better than Wonder Woman 1984. That movie was bad.
I'm torn on that one actually. For me personally,
I think Wonder Woman 1984 is more problematic than this movie in terms of some of the things that happen in it.
It's true.
I think it's better than that. It's not as good as the original the first Wonder Woman. It's
definitely better than the first Suicide Squad.
Yes. I don't remember Batman. I enjoyed Batman versus Superman a lot.
I probably like Batman v Superman more than this personally.
They're probably around the same page. It's not as good as Zack Snyder's Justice League.
No.
I never saw Aquaman, that movie that somehow made $1 billion.
I like Aquaman more than this.
Okay. But it was fun enough. I think it was pretty creative, but here's my biggest problem with this movie. They're like, hey, the most annoying character in the entire DC universe that only a small minority of fans really enjoy. How about we have 2 of them? And one is even more annoying. The new one we introduced is even more annoying to the point that it annoys the person that you thought was annoying beforehand.
Yeah.
Which, albeit, Flash was not nearly as annoying in the Zack Snyder cut, I would say.
Probably not. And I think that, it makes the main Barry less annoying by comparison, but it's still like 2 just annoying characters in the same movie.
If you had a different iteration of the Flash as a character that wasn't so annoying, I think this would have been a better movie.
Yeah. I'd probably agree with that. That feeds into, unfortunately, one of my problems with this movie is something that I like. There's a few parts of this movie that I just like. It's not necessarily the movie's fault, but I can't like separate it from it. One of it being Ezra Miller, just in general, and I in the past I think I've mentioned separating art from artist and whatnot, but this movie I can't like mentally bring myself to do it because Ezra Miller is just in 95% of the movie, and I just like cannot enjoy their presence on screen at all based on like what's happened, and that does affect my appreciation for the movie in general. I'm not gonna pretend like it doesn't, but geez, I just cannot stand Ezra Miller like at all.
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, you can judge the movie on those merits, and I think that is completely fair to do that, and that is certainly going to impact your viewing experience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they should have. It's a very, would it have been better to just never release this movie or to recast this movie? I mean, it's a really tough call because on one hand, right, that would be incredibly expensive to recast and redo everything.
Yeah.
And it would also stink to just not release it because of all the other people who put a lot of work into this.
This is true.
So that's a very tough call, and obviously I'm nowhere close to being in the production process of this movie. So it's hard, I'm too far away to make that call or to have a strong opinion about what was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And also, who cares what I would say anyway. So I think that's complete. If the Ezra Miller thing is a deal breaker for you, I think that's completely legitimate position to have. For me, I would have. It would be great if this movie could exist without the Ezra Miller stuff, right? Like it would just be. It would be a lot more fun for us as audience members, and a lot more fun to review it and not have to talk about these horrible things that this person has done. And
that's part of my thing is I just feel like it's so hard to like separate this movie, especially just since it is so much in the public discourse around it. Like I feel like that isn't having an insignificant effect on the box office for this movie. I think there are a lot of people who are just not seeing this movie because Ezra Miller and everything.
Yeah.
So.
I wonder how well this movie would be doing regardless. I mean,
it's true.
We will never know.
Yeah. Speculation.
My thing is, I've acknowledged the Ezra Miller thing. If that's a deal breaker for you, I think that's completely viable. Skip this movie. Whatever you think you need to do in that situation. I'm gonna look. With that being said, I'm gonna look at this movie through the lens of everybody else's work that went into it.
That's fair.
And review it in that way, knowing that Ezra Miller has done a lot of terrible things, and I would have enjoyed that not being a thing. It was I don't know what else to say about it. There's no eloquent way of saying it.
And that's not like, for me, I mentioned outside factors of having an effect on this movie. That's not the only thing. There's some other stuff we'll talk about in spoilers that I think just kind of have soured me on the movie as a whole. But that's not to say there aren't actual things in the movie I don't like, because there are plenty I don't like. I think that have made me kind of especially over time, dislike it more. But yeah, I'm not a fan so far. But
yeah, okay. So let's talk about the movie itself. With that being acknowledged, talked about how there's two Barrys. Mm-hmm. Michael Keaton, it being his Batman has no impact on that. It could have been literally any Batman that you could plug and place. There was no significance to it being his iteration of Batman.
It doesn't really even feel like his Batman that much, aside from it literally being Michael Keaton. But I didn't really, I mean, granted, it's been a while since I've watched those movies, but I didn't really get like the characteristics of that Batman and Bruce Wayne here that much. It just kind of felt like generic, a random Batman that they plucked out and like just kind of wrote a generic script around.
Yeah, and I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but if you're going to this movie solely for Michael Keaton, I don't know. I mean,
this would not be, I wouldn't go to this movie just for that. Like, I would maybe wait for streaming if that's all you're interested in. But yeah, I just don't think it. And he's also like, no, going into it, I'm kind of glad that there was less Batman stuff for the sake of it being a Flash movie, but the marketing is so heavily tied to Batman and Supergirl that if you go in expecting that, you're going to be disappointed because they're not in it all that much.
They're not. Are they in the first half?
No, I don't think so. They're not in the
first third, I would say.
Supergirl's in it even less. So, I mean, if you're a big Supergirl fan, that's even worse. But yeah, they're not at all in the first half. Like I said, I think that probably works better for it being a Flash movie. But like everything about this movie is like, oh, it's Michael Keaton's Batman. Oh, there's new Supergirl here. And they're just not in it that much. So you'll be disappointed if that's what you're expecting.
Yeah. The music was, you had the 1989 Batman theme, which was nice. It didn't stand out to me.
And that was really the only thing I noticed from music, yeah.
Look, General Zod comes back. I mean, I don't remember. I never saw Man of Steel, so I don't know how closely it relates to that. It definitely felt Back to the Future 2 in a lot of places where they're not hints of that, not to the point where they're literally revisiting the scene. I think they are revisiting a couple scenes, but not like so on the nose like Back to the Future 2 is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it is a creative, enjoyable movie. I honestly could see a certain subsect of fans really, really liking this movie.
And the other thing I guess I want to mention for the fan expectations, it's only like loosely Flashpoint. Like it's like the concept of him going back in time to save his mom and changing things, that's still true, but everything else is like just new for this. So don't go in expecting a, faithful adaptation of that story.
Which maybe is what they should have just done.
Yeah. It's a good story, so probably better.
So, I don't know. I do like a lot of the ideas in this. I just I'm not sure if I enjoyed the execution.
That's where I'm at. And I feel like I can only go so far running with the ideas. But I don't know. Should we talk about the VFX?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the visual effects of this movie are okay to atrocious.
Yeah.
And
nothing better than that.
Particularly when the Flash goes back in time. The Speed Force or whatever they call it.
It's the Speed Force. The idea of that visual is kind of cool. I think
the concept of it is really cool. I think. And it's very intuitive, and I think it works.
It doesn't make the most sense when you think about how, running back and forward in time works. I didn't quite understand how that differed, but the idea is really cool. But the execution, it looks terrible, just awful, full of uncanny valley faces that hardly resemble the actors that they're trying to look like.
It is somewhere in between the Million Agent Smiths versus Neo and Matrix Reloaded, and like FIFA players, like in your FIFA game.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Look, VFX. The reason the vast majority of VFX in big budget movies that you see are bad is due to a limitation with either time or money, and my speculation would be here is that Warner Bros. Was like, we're going to cut our losses with this movie.
And not put more money towards it.
We're going to put more money into polishing up these effects, no matter how good everybody's going to say it is. Because the effects are not going to be the make or break thing, I think, for this. But holy smokes, yeah, this is the first movie where I've walked out of and really thought, wow, it was bad.
Yeah,
distractingly bad. I like how like
Not
Andy
a s-
Muschietti came out and said like, "Oh, are supposed to be bad."
Yeah,
Like,
that was
what?
so no. There's no way it's supposed to look like that. No
There's
way.
no storytelling reason why it would not look good.
Yeah, and his reasoning doesn't even make sense throughout the movie because it's like, oh, well, it's because Barry's looking at, in different universes, it looks all different to him. I'm like, well, even when it's in his normal universe, it looks bad. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense.
There is a sequence in the third act of this movie towards the climax that is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, just the worst looking CGI I've seen in a movie in a long time.
Yeah, well, and I mean, not to backtrack too much, but you mentioned like the time and money thing. This movie doesn't have, I mean, granted, I guess I don't know the full conditions, but to me, it doesn't feel like it really lacks either of those. Because I mean, theoretically, it should have enough money behind it, but also there's been plenty of time. This movie has been in development for like so long. It's been delayed.
I disagree with that because the VFX is a post-production thing. It's a post-production. It's not like they were working on the VFX in 2013 on this movie.
It's true, but this movie was filmed quite a while ago. Like it's been even like.
But that's what I'm saying, that Warner Brothers is just, so maybe it's not a time thing, but they're not going to pump more money into this thing that they are not going to get. They had to know they were not going to get the return on investment in this thing. If they have, half a brain cell, they're going to figure that out. So from what I know about the VFX industry, which obviously is a limited perspective because I don't work in it. I don't live in Hollywood and work in it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they had limited resources, or they chose to have limited resources to get this done in a way that was going to be effective. And holy smokes, not only just the quality of the CGI, but the amount of CGI is off the charts. I mean, like literally the only movie that has more CGI that I've seen in it is Avatar: The Way of Water. And that movie is CGI, basically. So
looks good.
This is, the amount is insane. So maybe it still could be a time thing because the amount of CGI in the, think of a shot that doesn't have CGI in this movie.
Well, so I mentioned it to you after the fact, and it's funny you mentioned that. Like whenever there's two berries on screen, one of them is deep faked like most of the time, and it does not look very good. I went in hearing that, so I had heard that happen, so I noticed it.
Okay, I had, that was seamless for me. I did not notice that one bit. So that did not break immersion for me at all, is my rebuttal to that. So maybe I was immersed enough into the story where I did not notice that. I honestly didn't even think about it until I was like, oh wow, they had two berries on screen a lot. I wonder how they did that halfway through the movie, because it didn't even like register to my brain what was happening at that point.
There's some points where it looks awful though, and it's mostly when it's like it's a berry that's like in the background or something, so it's obviously not the focal point of the shot, but like it is. If you just look over it, looks real bad.
But you have to understand that the average viewer is not going to be looking for it.
I don't know. To me it was like, I feel like people would notice.
Okay. If you noticed, comment. If you didn't notice, comment. All right. Let's hear what your thoughts are. I did not notice. Maybe I'm just completely not observant about that sort of thing. Or maybe it was just the other CGI was so distractingly out of place that I didn't notice there. Gosh. I think maybe we should just jump into spoilers at this point. Just give our overarching thoughts here. Look, who is this movie for? This movie is for, if you liked the other DC movies and you just really enjoyed the DC universe, I think there's enough enjoyment to have here. If you are an absolute diehard Michael Keaton Batman fan, like you like have a replica costume and you just bought the new $400 Lego Shadow Box thing or however much it costs, then sure, watch it. And he's in it enough that you'll be like, okay, that's good for you.
But at the same time, you're just going to be disappointed because it's not the same character, basically. It's just like a random Batman.
Still Michael Keaton playing Batman. Otherwise, if you're at all on the fence with this, I don't think there's enough to push you over the edge. In fact, this got the lowest cinema score or at least tied the lowest cinema score of a DCEU film. So, which is not a great sign for a movie. I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. I think there are more redeeming, enjoyable qualities to it. But when you're watching it, it is difficult to overlook the Ezra Miller stuff.
Yeah.
And especially with some of the dialogue is like, what the heck
yeah.
is this?
Yeah, no, it's something like I mentioned before. I typically try to separate that stuff, but this is just a case where it's really hard for me to do that. So I'm not sure I fully can. But even outside of that, I mean, obviously the visual effects very poor, but I wasn't super engaged in the story either. I felt like it was just like a worse version of Back to the Future 2 or Spider-Man No Way Home or something like that, where it's like there's better versions of this in pretty much every regard. And I found myself bored for a chunk in the middle even. Like I was like, okay, I can 100% see where this is going. And so I don't know. I just really was not into this movie. Yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, score-wise, I'd probably give it like a 4, maybe 3.5. That's kind of where I'm at.
All right. So let's dive into our spoiler review then of The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Holden, this movie, I'm going to just write down the time code here for me when I'm editing this so I know when the segments are. But
Yep.
Okay, things I did like. I love Batman. Batman's my favorite superhero. So I enjoyed Batman, but
There's some good Batman action in it.
I enjoyed him going around and beating some people up. I thought that was fun. It wasn't worth the price of admission.
No, not on its own. The Batfleck bit at the beginning was pretty decent when it was him.
Yeah.
When it wasn't the hospital.
Yeah. I thought the hospital stuff was okay. I thought it was a little weird to have it be all babies.
I thought it tried a little too hard to be funny.
It felt a little like it was trying to be Deadpool to me or something.
I that's something I should have mentioned non-spoilers. I also think this movie is just like very unfunny. I don't think there was like a single joke in it that landed for me. I thought most of it seemed pretty try hard in its writing. It was just like, and lots of gags went on for just too long, and there were payoffs that were really cringe, like the last shot of the movie with the tooth falling out. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
That I was like, okay.
George Clooney is in it.
Yeah. That was I liked that. I was like, okay, that's kind of funny, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, some of the cameos, you have Nick Cage, Superman.
Looked bad. Why didn't you just get Nick Cage?
I thought it was funny enough. But boy, whew, some of those deep fakes and the Nick Cage looked the best of the
probably
deep fakes. The other ones were very rough.
Yeah. Specifically
rough.
like the Christopher Reeves, Helen Slater one.
That was awful.
It was so bad.
And they just kept going back to it and lingering on it and like moving it around. Oh my goodness. Oof.
And so that brings in the other thing that I think is an outside factor. It's hard for me to separate it. It feels really gross doing that, and not doing it for any meaningful reason other than just having them appear there. Like these, specifically like Christopher Reeves. There's also the George Reeves old Superman, black and white Superman, who literally, I believe, killed himself after being typecast his whole life as Superman. Oh. And I didn't confirm this but I saw that from a couple places online. This movie was literally released on the anniversary of his death too. Like, I don't know. It just feels very grimy to me, not very good. So outside of even just the bad effects, I'm like, this stuff is just not good.
I think it just went on too long. Like you get the multiverse colliding and falling apart or whatever, sure, and you have the little bits. I think, to quote another movie or to compare it to another movie, I think Across the Spider-Verse you have the little Tobey, Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield, and I think even that was a little
too on the nose for me at sometimes, but it was a little bit more restrained than this, which was like 3-minute sequence of all this thing to convey a point that could have been made in 20 seconds.
That was it was very brief, and it was already existing footage too. It was just like, okay, yeah, and they're part of the Spider-Verse. Makes sense.
Yeah. This was, I mean, they should have seen that and gone, we got to try something else.
Yeah.
The visual idea of it, the orbs like colliding, sure.
It's fine, but it's also like it just feels so shoehorned in. Like it's like I don't know. I was expecting the cameos to be more like integrated, maybe even into like the time travel sequences when he's going back and forth and fixing stuff. But it was just like felt very disconnected to what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, okay. I like the idea of like the whole what's it called? The whole Flashpoint storyline of him going back to save his mom. I think that's a great idea. I think it brings up the dilemma of, do you change the course of the future by doing kind of this selfish thing, apparently, I guess, by saving your mom, which, should be a good thing to do. And I like the decision that he has to reverse it at the end. I think that's a really nice thing. I don't know if that's how it plays out in the original Flashpoint
I think that's
story.
often how it plays out in different versions of it, but
I think that's a really touching idea. The whole bit with him, I thought some of the powers were fun, like the phasing through stuff.
Yeah. Makes sense.
The other Barry getting his powers and kind of causing all that stuff and learning, whatever. I don't know. I thought I enjoyed this movie enough. Do I ever want to sit down and watch this movie again? No, I don't really, to be honest with you, but I didn't hate it. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people are saying. Other points of it, I thought Supergirl was interesting enough. I don't think Zod was a compelling villain at all.
No.
Again, I haven't seen Man of Steel, but they didn't characterize him at all. They're just like, we need to harvest Earth, and guess it's just his same motivation, and we're not gonna flesh out anything there. I guess it's done in Man of Steel, so this movie's already 2 hours and 20 minutes or whatever, and
yeah, Zod I never thought was that compelling of a villain in Man of Steel for him to come back here. I mean, I guess the idea itself is cool, but yeah, he's not given much to work with here. And he is basically the main villain. I mean, I guess the other one is like the other Barry, but that's also super underdeveloped and just kind of rushed in and handled very quickly at the end of the movie. Yeah. So yeah, neither of the villains really did much for me.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting enough twist to it that I felt like I should have seen coming a lot closer. But like when he had the second thing, I was like, oh, he's the guy from the beginning. So which was like, 30 seconds before they revealed it or whatever. Other things. I thought the actual like speed running thing looked decent enough. I don't know how else you would have done it in a way that would have drawn the audience into what it's like for Barry to run.
It's definitely a hard effect to get down. I didn't really like it, but I mean, I thought the same thing. I don't know how else you would do it that well. And like, you want it to look high budget and everything. And I guess I can't remember how the TV show did it. I don't remember being that distracted by it in the TV show. I think still the thing about it that just gets me is the way that he runs, which they make a joke about in the movie. It's a weird run, but I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't have a huge problem with that. Golly, a lot of that stuff at the beginning, the car chase with the Batman is just not even real. Like,
yeah, it's just animated.
It's just animated. Like, it's like that is not happening for real. Like, is there anything in this movie that's actually happening on camera?
I don't know.
Was the sense that I got,
any of the action,
especially at the beginning of the movie. Holy smokes! And it doesn't necessarily look bad. It's just clearly not real. Like Batman riding on this bike is not real. That is a CGI character. This police car flipping around is not real. The whole thing where he's going and saving the babies and all that, I thought that was fun enough. Puts the
baby in the microwave.
Puts the baby in the microwave and then freaks the lady out, but saves him from exploding. You know what? That's at least something that the Flash is the only character that's going to be doing something like this.
Yeah,
and that's unique enough that I haven't seen something like that. So I thought it was a little weird that it's babies and coming out of the NICU and whatever, but I thought there was enough creativity in that scene that I enjoyed it enough. It was just like cut back to, Batman, just CGI Batman doing all this stuff. Which, again,
almost every other scene in the movie with the Flash, it feels like any superhero could just be a part of this. It didn't feel very specific to him. But you're right, the hospital bit's probably the only one that is.
And so. Again, I say it's all CG, but how else could you reasonably do this this movie's budget would be even more insane if you tried to do all this stuff for real.
Yeah.
So I get that where you have to make a compromise there as well. I just what was it like to film this movie? All right, we're going to film this blank slate.
I wonder if we'll get any behind the scenes footage or anything at some point.
There's just prequels or Star Wars prequels where it's just like a green room or a blue room, and I just imagine that a lot of that is what this is. And there are scenes where it's in his apartment or whatever, or it's not. So I don't want to oversimplify it.
Yeah, but it is a large amount of the movie.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Look, I don't really like the Flash to begin with. So was I ever gonna love a Flash movie? Probably not, but. I thought it was fine. I thought it was entertaining enough. I didn't feel the 2.5 hours as much as I thought I was going to. Mm-hmm. I thought it was paced well enough. I thought it was entertaining enough. Even though I didn't love the fact that there were two Barrys, it wasn't as annoying as it could have been. It was hard to get over the Ezra Miller stuff. General Zod felt whatever, plug and play with any sort of world-ending villain. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen Man of Steel, so that didn't bring back any member berries for me. I like Michael Keaton Batman, but I don't have a ton of nostalgia for it, so that didn't do anything for me.
I did think it was funny when Michael Keaton's Batman killed himself for no reason.
Oh my gosh, okay. That was the problem I had with this movie that I'm glad you brought up, is it does the Rise of Skywalker thing, where people die and just come back, and then...
A lot.
Yeah, well, and in this case, they die again. And that's you cannot bring someone back and kill them off again. Because then I'm like, are they actually dead? What is the stakes here?
And it's unclear. I mean, I would argue even through the end of the movie for some of the characters that die, it's unclear if they're permanently gone or anything. We just I don't know, not much closure.
I guess, other Flash erased everything, right? So he would be alive because he dies. The time travel in this movie makes zero sense. I don't think there's any logic to it at all. So I don't think it works.
I remember so when they first meet Michael Keaton's Batman, they take a dig at the way that Avengers does time travel. Yeah. They so some people think it makes certain branches of the timeline or whatever. But the way they describe it just makes less sense. They're presenting it as a more logical way to go about time travel. And the Avengers, the way they go about it is not flawless. There is a lot of flaws in their logic, but there is a logic to it.
Yeah. I think I understand what they're saying here, but I don't think it makes sense within the context of their own movie.
Yeah.
Because it's you alter time and you get a different present and a different past.
Yeah.
So it's if they go back in time again, I don't know. If they go back in time again, shouldn't there be a completely different Batman again and a complete is Zod even in this one? And when I try to go back this other time to fight...
I didn't understand the logic of Barry trying to go back and, possibly fix everything. At the end of the movie, when he decides he wants to go, right what was wronged and, put the can back or whatever, I was like, well, he's still even though it's minute, he's still changing stuff technically. So why wouldn't that affect the timeline more.
And wouldn't that just be in one of the dimensions?
Yeah.
But they try to say at the end, like, oh, well, every time I did this, you went back and did this thing. But any change you make creates a whole new or a whole new universe, right?
Yeah.
So if he goes back and changes the canon, great, he saved a completely different universe, right? And the other one's still doomed? Maybe, again, I could be completely interpreting this wrong.
That's what I picked up too, so.
Whatever they did, the way they explained it, and I thought it was, time travel explanations in movies get a bad rap. And I thought this was a creative way to do it with the spaghetti. Michael Keaton, I'm sure, had no idea what he was talking about.
He was reading it verbatim.
He's reading lines off screen. He's like, Mulder, whatever this is. You guys want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. But whatever. I mean, time travel stuff in movies doesn't bother me. I enjoy Looper, which a lot of people hate that movie because of the time travel stuff. So it's not a make or break thing. It did not change my overall enjoyment of this movie one bit, the time travel stuff. So I don't want to get caught up in the weeds there. I'm trying to think of the Michael Keaton. He was fine. Like, I don't think he was like, whew, man, he just won me over, ultra charismatic. It definitely felt like he just was like, all right, I better do this because people will be disappointed if I don't.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was just a paycheck for him, but it was also like it wasn't like he was dying to come back to the character. It wasn't like
Harrison Ford eagerly going back to Indiana Jones. Like,
Harrison Ford in the new Marvel movie or something.
So again, he was good enough. I thought the girl who played what's her name? The girl who played Superman. The actress.
Sasha Kaye, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I thought she was pretty good.
She was good. Yeah. I liked her. She wasn't in like I said, not in a ton, but liked her.
I like Ben Affleck. I thought it was fun to see him back, actually.
Yeah. This is probably the best, in my opinion, the best Batman he's been. Yeah. And it wasn't in it enough, probably. But.
Jeremy Irons is always great as Alfred.
Yeah.
But man, I guess anything else you really are dying to talk about with this movie?
We didn't mention Wonder Woman. We mentioned it. Oh yeah. We alluded to it. God, it was so. Yeah, does a little lasso of truth bit.
Barry talking about sex.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
God. Okay. Very funny.
To be fair, some people in our theater thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, some people thought this movie was very funny.
Again, I will say it again. I would not be surprised if there is a subset of people who love this movie and think this is a great movie. And I think that is completely legitimate opinion to have. I honestly think that the stuff in this movie that I don't think there's like a ton objectively terrible about this movie. I think it's more of subjective problems I have with it, other than just clearly they didn't have the resources to make the good CGI.
Yeah.
Or chose not to put the resources into it.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I really didn't like this movie, but general consensus, I guess I shouldn't say general consensus. I'm not seeing consensus online. There's a lot of people that hate it. There's a lot of people that love it. A lot of people in between. It is a very mixed reception movie, but people have their own strong opinions about it. So
you did give it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
So was that a subjectivity rating or an objectivity rating? Or
I mean, I don't know. I think it's a combination of both. I think it's hard for me to fully remove subjective stuff from it, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. There's Boba Fett was in it. Remember that?
Yeah, I did not realize he's Aquaman's dad.
Yeah, he's an Aquaman.
What are you calling? My wife is not the Queen of Atlantis.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. Then there's the Aquaman post-credits scene where he falls asleep in a puddle.
That was a pointless scene.
It was pointless. I thought it was kind of funny that he's like, I'll fall asleep here. He's in a puddle. I was like, okay,
this is my home or whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, there was really didn't add anything. What else is there about it?
That's enough.
Yeah, it's watch and form your own opinion.
They have already watched it.
No, hopefully.
So let us know. If you're on YouTube, tell us in the comments what you thought of The Flash. We can start a dialogue, a respectful conversation.
Yes.
That's what we want. All right, Holden, let's go on to our final segment of the show, which of course is What Are You Doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Putting down the time code so I know when to edit this. Yes. All right, Holden, it is What Are You Doing? That's my new time code song.
Oh, very
That'll
good.
be editing.
You better sing it that exact way every time. I'm going to keep
Putting in the time codes. I've already don't remember.
I don't either. It's
gone.
okay.
It's gone.
This week, Jimmy, didn't watch any other movies, or I guess I did watch Extraction 2, which we can talk about briefly. Extraction 2, you watched all but the last 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, I saw Extraction 2 too.
Nice. Yeah, I watched it. It blows its load so early in the movie, and the rest of the movie is just boring. Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
I knew there, obviously knew going in, I think we had talked about it before, there was going to be another big action scene. I didn't know when it was going to be in the movie. And then it starts, I'm like, oh, it's right now. It's in the first 40 minutes of the movie. And then and that's incredible. I really liked it. I thought it probably surpassed the first movies, and there was just a lot going on. It was very entertaining. It had so many different facets of action movies in it that I think pretty much anyone could be satisfied no matter what kind of action movie you like. And then after that, it's just boring, generic.
Okay. I have not seen the last 30 minutes of the movie. I think the part, the building thing where they need to escape the building, the assault on the building when they're actually in the building, is particularly Chris Hemsworth is in the gym.
Yeah, that was probably
the fitness
good.
area. I thought that was entertaining. But again, I think a lot of the best moments in there are in the trailer. So if you've seen the trailer, I don't know. My opinion so far, without having seen the last 30 minutes, is
I will
just go look up the time codes for when the oneer begins and just watch that. Because honestly, you could skip the first 20 minutes of the movie. It's just set up that you probably don't care about. Unless you're a diehard Extraction lore fan. Which, if you are, good on you. They're fun movies. The oneer is great.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's awesome. I don't know how there's clearly some cuts, especially in the prison brawl. There were a few points where I could definitely notice where the cuts were. But with cuts, it's still amazing. Still incredible. The level of coordination and everything with it, and the effects in it, both computer and practical, are seamless. Pretty much, I'd say. So, yeah.
Extraction is kind of like Godzilla. Just skip to the monster parts and you don't need to watch the rest of the movie. It's kind of where I'm at with this.
This movie would be so much better if it didn't take itself so seriously.
Yes.
Amen. And that's we've been comparing everything to John Wick, and John Wick does not take itself seriously. It's a very silly, fun action movie.
It takes itself seriously. It makes fun of itself by taking itself seriously. At times. It's like a self-aware taking itself seriously in a comical, ridiculous way.
There's a couple layers there, and it's it's tied with the very silly lore and the world that it's set in and everything. But here it's the main character is a guy whose kid died of cancer, and he's just sad about it, and he does he
goes through he gets shot and he has to go through rehab, and they it's wow, he actually they show you his rehab process, and it's this super serious drama, and I'm connecting this kid and this mother-son relationship, and it's we don't care.
And it almost makes the oneer stand out from because that I feel that sequence doesn't take itself too seriously, actually, because you have the bit with the flaming fists that's in the trailer and stuff, and so that's a lot of fun, makes that scene all the better. But then the rest of the movie is just I'm very sad, and all this there's this kid.
Yeah, and then I crush this guy with the dumbbells. It's so what are we doing here? You can't have this serious drama and then just this silly. I take this guy, throw his head into the treadmill, and he gets launched. Those things don't go together.
No,
in a way that in a way that feels natural. Like you either have to commit to the realism and the drama or commit to the fun, absurd action.
Yes.
In a John Wick sort of way. And I would like to see them lean into it, which is, again, or just skip to the 21-minute wonder, which is great, which is what I would recommend. And if you really care, you can watch the whole thing.
If the whole movie was just stuff like that, I would love it. But unfortunately, it's just very boring for a lot of it. The middle chunk is just like, I was just doing other stuff. I was like cleaning my house while it was happening. I was like not interested at all.
Yeah. It's not the most interesting plot I've ever seen to a movie.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on character motivations and all that.
Yeah, we could.
That'd be opening up a can of worms. Skip to the oneer. There's our review of Extraction 2, which I could have told you was going to be our review from the get go.
Yeah,
it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
But let's see. Anything? What else are you doing, Holden?
Oh yeah. So otherwise, I've been watching more of that Spectacular Spider-Man show. It's very good. But other than that, I don't think I've really watched a ton of TV this week. I guess watching some more Barry, but I'm still quite a ways behind you. And then video game wise, I finished Kingdom Hearts 3. A lot of fun, very rushed ending. It's like they crammed all of the plot in the last 20% of the game. So,
wow, that's crazy because that's exactly how Assassin's Creed Origins is
really?
as well.
Okay, well, yeah, it's just like games like that. You should spread it out more. That's the simple thing to fix the pacing of it. But I liked it. I liked the ending. It had a lot of fun, satisfying build, or I guess. Satisfying conclusions to various arcs from the whole series so far. But I'm on the final game now, which is a rhythm game called Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. And it's basically a recap of the series plus some extra at the end. And it's a rhythm combat game where you're playing alongside like the great music from the series. And it is very addicting. It's very simple, but the music in the series is so good that I'm loving my time with it. And it's also like each song is like 2 minutes long, so it's a horrible factor of me like, oh, I could just do one more before I go to bed. Like
you and Oscar Schindler.
Yeah.
Just one more. Just one more.
Great comparison.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm liking it. And after that, I don't know if I'll finish it the next week, but I might do Ghostwire next. We'll see. But what about you, Jimmy?
All right, Holden. I have done quite a bit, actually. Barry, I have 3 episodes left. Like the first half of season 4, there is a change. There's a shift halfway through. So we'll see how the second half goes. I'm guessing this is where people didn't like it. Emily and I finished Beef, which is excellent.
Okay.
Highly recommend. I don't know how I feel about the last episode.
That's fun.
I think they should have finished on the second to last episode.
That's funny because last week you were like, we watched one episode, not sure if we're going to finish it, but you finished the whole thing in this last week.
We did.
Wow.
We did. Well, it's been like 9 days since our last episode, to be fair.
Recording a lot.
And we watched,
because of me.
And they're
my
like
fault.
35-minute episodes, and we watched 4 of them yesterday.
Okay.
Emily was like, we have to watch another one. She's like, but they would end on a cliffhanger, and she's like, well, we got to watch the next one. And I'm like, well, they're 35 minutes. We can do it.
I liked the last episode, but I agree, though. The second to last episode is so good.
I was like, I was convinced that I had misremembered that it was 10 episodes. I was like, oh, it must be 9 episodes because clearly this is the last one.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing stuff that happens, like jaw-dropping stuff, huge plot twists in that that I did not see coming at all. But wow, yeah, very, very good. And the last episode, I was like, this is a departure from everything else that's happened in the show. I didn't hate it. I just was like, it felt separate. It felt weird.
Sure.
It didn't fit in with the rest of the vibe, I would say.
Okay.
Saw Spider-Verse again. Incredible the second time.
Nice.
Very good. I even gained a higher appreciation. Went way faster the second time. I think that was me too. I was watching, I'm like, holy crap, it's the end of the movie. Like, what the heck? Like, this movie flies when because the first time I was like, okay, what is happening here? But once I knew the structure and I went in,
first half we didn't know where it was going to end,
knowing there was not going to be any climax or anything really. And this one, just like, holy smokes, did that fly by?
Yeah.
Excellent. Like I said, Assassin's Creed Origins finished that. Ends, in my opinion, very abruptly. You're not even playing as the main character at the end of the game.
Really?
You play as the main character's wife.
Okay.
Again, everything I wanted to play the game for, the whole Julius Caesar Cleopatra stuff, is in the last 20% of the game. It's pretty good, honestly, but it's very rushed. And I'm like, wow, there was a much better version of this. But here's kind of my takeaway of it is Origins exists literally between what was it, Syndicate and Odyssey. But like from a game style standpoint, it also exists in between those. Whereas Odyssey just completely embraces like, who cares that this is Assassin's Creed? You're just in ancient Greece as Alexius or Cassandra going around incorporating really well all the stuff about ancient Greece, including the myths and like the Minotaur and Medusa and Athens versus Sparta, the Peloponnesian War, the Persian War, the 300, all that's in there. They took every awesome thing from that time period and crammed it into the game. Whereas this one, it's like, well, you're in ancient Egypt. Cleopatra's here, but it's very much the backdrop. Okay. And it's like this. It's the story is not that. Like, the story is not Cleopatra and Julius Caesar, essentially until the end. And still, it's pretty much the backdrops, yet again, for the origins of Assassin's Creed, which I think the origins of it was pretty cool, as someone who doesn't, again, have a huge affiliation or anything with the original games. But it was just like, I think I started to enjoy it more when I realized that what it actually was. But it was much more like, okay, your son dies and you're like hunting down, getting revenge on all these people, and you slowly go and assassinate each one of these people, which I'm assuming is kind of like the older games where it's like, all right, here's your target, go and assassinate.
That feels like that's probably what it is.
Whereas Odyssey, there is an element of that, but then you also have the whole historical context of it and more of the RPG style where you're actually kind of creating your own story. And it's fitting in much more to the historical context of this war, of this stuff happening, where it's like, oh, Cleopatra's here and she's fighting against her brother Ptolemy, but really these guys are kind of associated with Ptolemy, but it's not really. And you're just kind of going, it just felt really repetitive and like, okay, you go to this area, here's a couple side missions that you have to play in order to level up to be strong enough to beat this guy. And they're like, oh, someone's poisoning the sacred animal, or someone's poisoning this, or somebody's poisoning that. Oh, it's the priest again, those corrupt priests. It's like this, I swear, like there's this is the same like mission, copy and paste. A bunch of different of these places. And to be fair, I honestly think a lot of it is pretty solid and good, and especially from a game from 2016. Like, I honestly think it's like an 8 out of 10 game.
Sure.
It just wasn't what I wished it could have been. And I think there was a more interesting game, at least for me, that I would have liked to have played a version of it that wasn't made. But I think the historical aspects of it, like the setting, is awesome. Really, really cool. They knocked it out of the park with like just the aesthetic of it. And
nice.
Incorporating the actual landscapes and geographical features themselves. So that's where I'm at with that. So I finished that. I am playing Horizon Forbidden West now.
Nice.
I'm not really looking forward to it, to be honest with you. I'm like, oh gosh, here I go, another open world game, but I feel obligated to play it because I liked the first one a lot when I played it. And I upgraded to PS Plus, whatever, extra.
So you have it.
So I have to play it. So I'm about 20 minutes in, and it looks nice.
Yeah.
They have a colorblind mode. That's nice. I haven't used it yet, but it's there if I need it. I need to rewatch like just a collection of cutscenes from the original. They do like a recap, but I'm like, that original one was some pretty good sci-fi.
Yeah.
I'd like to, I don't know if I want to play the whole game again, but maybe just watch like a 3-hour.
Yeah, you could find something like that.
Last thing, I'm working on a Mulan video essay. That's going to be great when it comes out, I think. And if you have seen Mulan or if you haven't, you should absolutely check it out. Hopefully in the next week, it'll be up on YouTube because I think it's going to be, the analysis is going to be good. I think the jokes are going to be pretty good.
Nice.
And I pretty much only talk about like things that happen in the first 15 minutes. So it's not really a spoiler either. So like watch it. It's going to be about the original animation and why a lot of the things they do in it are really, really effective and make Mulan, at least the beginning, super, super well written, animated, and creative.
Jimmy is the internet's #1 Mulan head.
Yeah, I am. Not, but it's going to be a good video. So check it out. A lot of good things happening on YouTube. So be there. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for being around to the end. If you're listening to us,
also thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it.
So next week, originally we were going to do Elemental, but we might not do that now because who cares about Elemental?
I'm sure it's perfectly fine and enjoyable.
Yeah, it is just kind of at this point like a wait for Disney Plus thing for me. So instead, we're thinking about maybe doing a video where we talk about the first 4 Indiana Jones movies in preparation for Dial of Destiny, which comes out the next week.
Yeah, so that's the plan, to rewatch some of the, at least as many as we can, the original ones, talk through them, maybe do a little ranking, what we like, what we don't like, what holds up well, what doesn't hold up well. Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade is the movie that made me fall in love with movies. So I'm excited to rewatch it. Haven't seen any of them in quite a while.
I'm so excited. I watched Last Crusade, I feel like a year or two ago after you had told me it was your favorite. But aside from that, I haven't seen any of them in so long. So very excited.
Sweet. So that's coming at you next week. And then Dial of Destiny 2 weeks from now. Otherwise, Holden, you can take us home.
If you want to leave us a request, you can do so by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes or email us at tomppodcast@gmail.com or donate to our Patreon. I believe that's it.
If you want a request, you better do it soon because the window for taking a request might be closing. Just going to throw that out there. So
interesting.
You might want to do it soon. If you're like, oh, I'd like to hear them talk about this movie during a gap week sometime. Better get on it, all right? Because it might be closing. There's a little tease for you. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next time. Sorry we took up 2 hours of your life. Holy smokes, you'll never get that back.
At least the camera hasn't died.
Yeah, there we go. All right. We will see you next time. In the meantime, adios, pantalones.
Love you.